Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our product tour this month. Today, we're all talking about optimizing staff capacity with our resource management features. So we're really excited to dive in with you today. My name is Trilby Lawless. I'm here on the marketing team at BigTime. And also joining me on the screen is Ty Sank. He's one of our account executives at BigTime and a master on all things resource management. So he'll be giving you the tour today. But before I hand it over to Ty, I just wanted to cover two things really quick. First of all, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us live today, probably during your lunch hour. So thank you for being here. And if any members of your team wanted to join today but weren't available, this will be recorded and I'll send out a recording tomorrow morning. So look out for that in your inbox if you want to rewatch or share with anyone. And in addition to that, we will be doing a live Q&A at the end. So if any questions come up during the presentation related to resource management or anything to do with BigTime that Ty covers, please feel free to submit those into the questions panel, and I'll be coming back later on in the call to ask those to Ty live, and we'll make sure we get all of those answered for you. So with that, Ty, I'll go ahead and hand it over for you, and I'll be back in a little bit.
Great. Thank you so much, Trilby. Again, it's always a pleasure to be on here with you, to be able to speak to a group of folks around these specific features, functionality, and benefits of BigTime. So thank you to you and the marketing team for teeing this up and getting these folks on the call today. For everyone joining us today, as Trilby mentioned, the goal today is to talk about resource management and capacity planning. That will take on quite a few different forms, right? Of how are we staffing, who's available, who has bench time, when can we pick up new projects, when do we need to hire? So we'll be taking a viewpoint or a multi-step viewpoint on this today, depending on if you're a project manager, a resource manager, or a traffic manager as well. And the outline that you see on your screen, we'll do a quick intro to BigTime today, and then we'll jump right in to projects in BigTime. This will all be dependent upon project setup, a couple of variables that we'll be looking at there. And whether you are someone who's never seen BigTime before, maybe you're an IQ Pro user looking for some increased functionality in the software, maybe an existing IQ Premier who is just struggling with getting a grasp on this, or maybe how to make it actionable. It'll all start here at the core build out of the project. Whether we're in a bidding or proposal stage, an active project, how we're setting our hourly estimates, and then managing those due dates and visuals of how this happens. From there, we'll shift into a pretty simple approach, right? Projects, people, reporting. From there, we'll go into the people side. And under people, we'll be grouping in the availability, right? How do I look ahead and see what the demand is for a consultant in 3 months? How do I then look across my resource pool to see who's available to work those hours? And that'll, again, tie into the role-based or the staff-based, depending on the status and stage of the product. And then finally, reporting. The bulk of the call, most likely, how are we grouping, organizing, and analyzing this data? Whether that's an interactive dashboard, shared reports for you to see which department is falling off on planned work, or quite simply, who's available to work. It's all about the data management, but more importantly, how do we take those numbers and turn them into something that we can take action on to better the business, work more efficiently, and spend more time out there with the clients, which is what everyone wants to do, not be bogged down in an administrative burden of data in BigTime. And the Q&A will come later. Oh, and what's next will come later. Surely I'm a little rusty from last month with my slide presentation here. Let's hop right in to BigTime. So shifting away from those slides, looking at our BigTime IQ Premier account. And again, the goal today is projects, people, and reports. So we will kick off today going to our active project list. Now, here in my BigTime account, whether I've imported these from an accounting solution, such as QuickBooks or Sage Intacct, maybe I'm not connected to an accounting solution and I'm doing all my work here in BigTime, this list here will show all of our active customers and jobs, clients and projects. The language, the naming convention will be up to you, but this is where we'll house all that data. And to make it easy, right up top today, we'll be focusing on our client, BigTime Software. And I built out 2 projects today. You'll notice to the right, one of those is in process, an active working status, and the other, project 2, will be in a bidding or proposed stage. So 2 different scenarios, 2 different sets of needs. One, we've assigned the work, we know who's working on it, and we want to track performance, right, from today moving forward. But thought it'd be helpful to, in this stage here, in a bidding or proposal stage, talk about how we can get a better handle on this. In our experience, we often see people who are able to solve for the current problems at hand. And it's that ability to start to look ahead that's really going to give you a bit of competitive edge on better maintaining your business and productivity. So today we'll jump right into project 2, and we'll start on the project dashboard. So within this project, if you're not connected to QuickBooks, that won't be on your screen. You'll notice here the status. These orange drop downs in BigTime are going to allow you to customize or edit this to match your firm. Keep that in mind as we go through today. I'm set up in a very general sense, working with something aligned to an IT development space. These orange arrows allow you to make the customizations that you need to match the language of your firm. So within this, I've built out active and inactive statuses. My active statuses include in process working, a bidding or proposed stage, or an other. My inactive, I have a waiting, completed, could be paused, on hold. Does not matter. The key takeaway is active, inactive, and you're customizing the naming conventions within those 2. Now, if anyone out there is a Salesforce user, as we are internally, for better or for worse, could not live without it. We'll do a session later on, not on today's call, about facilitating that project kickoff with those native integrations. Great way for you to have an opportunity stage in your sales pipeline, such as this bidding or proposed stage, auto trigger the creation of a BigTime project. If you're not using Salesforce and you're coming in just to get a better handle on this in BigTime, not a problem. Add a project, throw it in the status, and hit save. While we're on the project dashboard, a couple other features to keep in mind. Would always suggest utilizing this type field. A great way to group projects together by type when we're filtering later stage reports. So again, the general examples here, I have app development, staff augmentation, a website. Now when we start to think ahead about what's the demand for, let's just say like a UI UX designer on all of my apps compared to all of my websites, we'll have that ability to filter out those reports. Beyond that, wanting to set start dates, due dates to give us a better handle on that. And for today's call, this should be a great foundation to get us started. A quick project added, it's currently being bid, it's an app that we're building, and we'll be able to go ahead and move on and start to forecast out some of that need. So rather than go left to right across all of these tabs, I'm gonna start right here on this rates tab. Bill rate management in BigTime is extremely flexible. It works by setting a default rate at a staffer or a labor code, category, item level, and then project to project gives you a custom rate card that can accommodate for any variable based off of a staff member, an activity, or a phase. Something like this project, where we know we're gonna build an app, I know I need a project manager, I know I need a consultant, I know I need an engineer. Based off of that scope, I know that the PM is going to bill out at 175, the consultant's going to bill out at 150, and that senior engineer is going to bill out at 160. So I'll go in and set those bill rates here, though I'm not quite ready to know who's going to be assigned to work on this. I still want to be able to start to project the revenue when I'm doing my revenue forecasting based off of that scope of work that we've provided to our client. So first step, or second step after setting up the project and getting those fields in, come to your bill rates tab, match these up or align these with how you've scoped or bid for that project to your client. Once bill rates are in place, we'll move into phases. Again, with the ability to edit and customize. The lexicon in BigTime is tucked into that My Company tab. If your firm says tasks, make that tasks. If you prefer deliverable or work breakdown structure, the ability to edit this to match you is a quick edit here with our system settings, not some wild development chase that we need to go in on our end. So bear with us today, again, as the general IT consulting space will be using phases. Now, I had mentioned that the bill rates were pulling from that scope of work we provided to the client. This phase editor should mimic those deliverables. However your projects are outlined, that is how they should fall in here. A standard approach, we'd be looking at design, develop, test, deploy. Great. This could be research, it could be analysis, depending on the firm that you're in or the sector that you work on. But this should be, in the easiest sense, where do the budgets lie on that scope of work? So on this, the initial scope, I know I need about 80 hours for design. I'm gonna do 160 on development, 40 hours for testing, 40 hours for deployment. My due dates are set here already, but I didn't do those manually. I let BigTime take care of those for me. We'll do a quick pivot here to the schedule. And by setting those auto dependencies on these tasks or phases, we're able to add in those end dates, saying that we can't start development until design is complete, so on and so forth. But a quick save here will auto-populate some of those features, some of those fields on your task editor. And while we're here, always suggest we have this idea of how this should work on paper. Come in, create that baseline on this project. That way, if we do get pushed out for any reason during work, probably the client's fault, not ours, we'll have that quick frame of reference here for how we're currently performing against where we had initially scoped. But back to the topic at hand of resource management and allocation. So we've gone so far as to say we have a project that we have a proposal out for. We're gonna build this website, or this app, I'm sorry. We've got 320 hours to get it done, and here's how those budgets fall across the different phases. Now we'll come into our allocations tab. I've done a little work before the call. This will be a flat line when you first get started, but we'll go ahead and edit these allocations. So simple standard approach for the call today. For design, I know I have 80 hours to complete this. I know that I need a project manager for 40 and I need a senior engineer for 40. For development, 160 hours, I'm going to give that to one person. I know that person's going to be a consultant, but I don't know who that's going to be just yet. We'll let BigTime pick up that burden of finding out who it's going to be for us. The red line here will be showing our due dates, depending on when that task or phase needs to be complete. And then if we were to, for some reason, over allocate, it's going to let us know that we're over. Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. It'll let us know that we're over allocated based off of that initial scope. We plug this in, and then step one in a bidding or propose stage is simply identify the need or the demand for the PM, the senior engineer, the consultant across this project. So I'll hit save. Don't need to update the assignments. No one's assigned yet. No team, no budgets. But I do want to come in and update those fee budgets. So this is calling back to the bill rates that we had set on that tab. The ability to go ahead and apply those rates to the allocated hours to give us a fee budget as well as revenue projections based off of how these hours are aligned in our allocation editor. So right down here, the revenue recognition. For today's call, we'll go ahead and keep that as simple rate times hours, though fixed fee breakdown for revenue projections, secondary option down below. So now we hit save. This is where that graph will come to life a little bit. Great view here for a project manager, right? A close view of a single project, what I've budgeted, and then as we track time, how we're inputting against it for the project by date range, and then by each of those roles as well, the consultant, the project manager, and that senior engineer. But I've now backfilled, going back to my editor, these fee budgets. So great way to pull from that bill rate that I had set on the scope, which I know, the hourly estimates, which I already know, to then go ahead and plug in those fee budgets. So great for project manager reporting on performance, potentially linked to a fixed amount that we would bill for, or a not to exceed amount before we need to start charging time and materials over that, and ultimately providing the baseline for all of our future reporting related to budget, performance, cost, and profit, as well as laying the amounts out for fixed fee invoices. Great. Continuing on from there, we've been able to scope this out, identify our bill rates, forecast out the need. We'll land on some reports at the end to look at that demand in a little bit of a different way. But as I mentioned, we can use BigTime to now come in and say, I know I need that PM for X amount of hours. Who should it be? So when we're on this allocation screen, we can flip the view. So rather than view by phase and role, I'll view by role and phase, right? So in this case, I need that consultant for 80 hours in June and July. BigTime can look across our resource pool based off of all staffers' availability and allocated hours to tell me which of my consultants have that availability in this date range. So in this case, I have Cooper, Ellen, and Jacob. For my entire staff, I've got about 25 or so staff members in my account, but these are the three that have that availability. We'll assign those to Cooper. For my project manager, a little bit more flexibility here. Sharon, Miguel, Kara, Sheila, Saul. Down below these hours in green, this is the number of available hours per staff member. So if we see that Miguel's assigned to another project, Kara's assigned to another project, let's go ahead and assign Sharon, our project manager. And we'll do one more right down here for that engineer. Who is available to work? Carl. Now from this screen, we'll hit save again, but we can backfill a lot of those other fields that we had missed before or skipped over before. So as we get closer to a one stage or a status, and we need to start using BigTime to help us identify who's available to work, now we can update those phase assignments, update our project team. We're not going to mess with the fee and hourly budgets, and we'll keep those revenue projections just the same. Now, a quick flip, right? It's no longer simply the role. We're now tracking an individual level. Here at Cooper, he's been given 160 as he enters time. This is a great place for my project manager to keep an eye on how they're trending against what we had forecast. So a lot to cover there. Again, this is starting in that bidding or proposed stage where we're identifying the status. We're going to go ahead and assign this by type for some report needs. We're going to set our bill rates associated to the role, forecast out, and then use BigTime to look across availability to plug in my available resources when it's closer to a one stage. Now, if you're not starting in bidding or proposal, and we're truly just looking to say, hey, I have a pretty good handle on my staff and their availability, I just need to really focus on keeping staff assigned to these hours. Our other project over here, we can go straight to it. Same principle, but on this allocations tab, whether or not we've identified by role, we could just come in and say, well, it looks like I've already forecast this out. Maybe if we only have hours here for Kara on deployment, we can come in and say, let's give Josh those hours. Josh Wilder, assign. So taking away from his capacity, which will be set at the staff level, assigning it to, oh, this is a weekly view. I forgot to mention monthly or weekly on these allocations. I knew there was a method to my madness here. Whether you're doing that on a monthly higher level to get a grasp on it, or if you prefer to look at it at that level, or if you do drill down into weekly capacity management and assignment, you have that flexibility project to project here. So this deployment phase for 40 hours, I'm going to give 20 of those to Kara on the week of 7/12 and 20 to Josh as well. So monthly or weekly, start with role and backfill, or go directly in and assign staff to these hours. Ultimately, we want to treat that capacity as the resource on the shelf, right? I have 160 hours for these folks. How am I making sure that everyone is fully utilized? And then as we move beyond that, how am I keeping an eye on, whether or not those hours are being input? If they're input, are they billable hours? A lot of later stage things to think about here, but the core of this is ensuring that everyone on our active roster is not going to find themselves with bench time coming up, and that we're able to better understand as a firm when we need to pick up work or when we're able to pick up work and when we need to hire to fill these demands. Save, knock that out, and then back to that project manager view of input versus allocated on here. So that was the quick recap of the projects and the people on this. And now we'll shift a little bit outside of how this is assigned, and we'll take a step above almost and look at it from a higher viewpoint on how do we actually see that? Maybe not look at one specific project and say, I know who's gonna work here, but how do I start to look across my entire team? So from here, we'll shift into some of the reporting in BigTime. This is going to be an incredibly flexible and adaptable portion of our system. We are very proud of how our report engine is built. You do not need a background in development to customize a BigTime report. If you see something on the call today that works for you, awesome. If you do something a little bit different, please let us know. We're fielding questions on the call via text right now. We'll open it up in the end, and we can always do a quick call consult after to see how we can adapt to you. So the reports we'll look at today in my account, these are based off of experience, right? What have we typically seen working with firms in this space? How have we been able to provide that visibility that we hear? But if it's slightly off, please let us know. We'll do a quick consult or quick chat with you to make sure we can get you helped out. So data management in BigTime will start here on our report center. This is not where we work out of on the day-to-day, but do want to lay the foundation here to let you know how the reporting works. So our approach is to give you some high-level categories, some pre-built reports, but then allow for the total flexibility and customization that you need to match to your firm. So while this is where we're working, we're building, we have a report wizard where you can create a report, identify the fields, subtotal as need, group as need, breakout, and share based off of user rights and security permissions. That's, again, a call for another day. Ultimately, we want to be taking a pre-built report like our allocation by month or project, using this as a baseline. Something like this, all this zero data bothers me. Why are we going back to 2018? Let's come up to 2020. Oh, and even less. So it's a good thing that I've pre-built the reports that I care to share with my team and tuck them here in this My Report filter. So rather than allow your staff to access the report center, or rather than give everybody the ability to just create a report as needed, you're able to build out your report templates and then share them on a dashboard. Now, on this dashboard, you'll see different groups. So I break out forecast reports by resource, forecast reports by revenue, and then I have a general project manager and time status bucket here that is a catch-all for some others. Important thing to know is that you can customize who can access each of these groupings. So project managers perhaps view this and maybe some resource availability, but maybe don't have insight into the revenue. That level of customization is totally dependent on your firm and is something that our success and implementation team will help you build from the ground up when we're adding your security rights and getting your staff in and helping you share the right information across the right people within your BigTime account. So with our revenue projections, all based off of those assigned hours, right? We did a fairly straightforward rate times hour on this. So one example, there we go. These are looking a little bit better with my customization here. We're looking at a client level and then a project. We'll roll this up and look at a client level only. Keep in mind, we can even drill down to projections, by task or phase within a project. However detailed or granular you are setting those allocations and budgets is a level we can report to, always providing for that ability to roll up. So here I have a quick 6-month revenue projection where I say for BigTime Software, my client, we had March, May, and a couple June projects here based off of the allocated work. I'm projected to have 4,400, 16, 9, 20,000, just over 49,000 in billable revenue this month. Great. We can roll that up, look at it from the client, and we can even start to shape this a little bit and say, it's great to know what I projected, but how am I inputting against that projection? So from here, if I like that, I can create a copy of this report. Quick peek under the hood and how you'll be editing these. So you have allocated fees for month 1. Let's go ahead and put those input fees for month 1 in there as well. I won't go through and do this on all 6 months. We'll just do month 1 side by side, see if there's data to pull in there. But I can, through a quick edit of an existing report, add in a field. And of course, terrible example because I added hours. Input fees month 1. There we go. Got it. Trial and error is the best way to learn this report engine outside of training. Here we go. So now with that quick edit, I can say, well, I've projected to have 15,600 in billable revenue on this project in June. And so far to date, I've input 9,600. So hopefully that will demonstrate the ease and flexibility of these reports. I would assume, which is dangerous, 90% plus of the fields in BigTime are exposed in reports. If there's something you need that you don't see, please let us know. Always happy to help configure the right way to display that data for you. But our allocated input, fees, hours, projected, all of those fields are at our disposal to help shape the right report that we need, depending on who's going to look at it. Is it finance? Is it operations? Is it project management? Those are, again, at your disposal to put in here, and then we will help you customize the right report to share. Back to our shared reports around those projections. Maybe I don't need to know what I'm going to build by every project. Maybe it's a quick C-level glance that just needs to see what do we project from the client level, from the top down. Same type of report, just continue to roll up, right? Where the allocations live, that level of detail is a level we can report on, always rolling up to the quick at a glance. Outside of the projections, the revenue projections, moving back to some of the resource demand here, or focusing on the hours and the need. I've got 6 reports here. We'll take a peek at 3, 4 of them maybe. Please let me know if there's something you are looking to see that we're not discussing on the call today. These can be as simple as, hey, I need to know who's available. So I very cleverly named my report who's available. So this is going to show, we're back in 2017 here. Maybe we'll pick this up a little bit. There we go. We'll look at this year. Great. So now I've got an overhead view of my staff member, Lee, every month. And these are his allocated hours. Right, so he's this poor fella. We use him quite a bit. That 160-hour capacity for the month, we are more than doubling that as well. But then, good news, like next month for Lee, June, July, a little bit of a dip, right? So a quick view, each staffer, what projects they're assigned to, what hours they're allocated, to make sure that we're not exceeding that capacity. In my trial account or my demo account here, so this poor fella, way overworked, but hopefully I can bill for all of it and it'll be all right. Beyond that, flipping the table, right? Not wanting to show you their assigned hours, but maybe I just want to know how many hours do I have available, by staff, by department. So our free time detail, a great way to do that. Again, the sorting, the grouping here, dependent on me, right? This could be a flat view. Have a lot of success saying, let's group this by department. Of everyone in our design department, let's show any different time period. The capacity will shift based off of the number of working days in that month. So as we shift to June of 2020, we go from 21 working days to 22 working days. I can see each staffer's capacity. Tom is on track here. We've assigned him 160 hours of his availability. He has 16 hours left, and then rolling up to that department level. Again, back to the sort, the order, the grouping of this. However, this should be displayed based off of the internal processes you have to discuss this and share information with your team. We will bend and match to do so. But as a whole for the month, my design department has the capacity to do 704 hours of work, and we've only assigned 504. My company is in bad shape this month. And finally, had talked about earlier the difference between a bidding proposed stage and an active. So when this conversation is, what is that upcoming demand for my, project engineers or my consultants or my project managers? How do I know what needs to be filled? I've taken those reports as a baseline, but I've done a quick filter on these when I share them. So now I can say, rather than run on everything in the firm, these two projects, this June webinar and this AMS demo project, these are the two projects I have in a bidding or proposal stage. So here I can see, I've done myself a disservice and I have assigned staff to these. So we'll use here a consultant for 40 hours in July, a senior engineer in 160 in June, and then a project manager for 40 as well. So being able to forecast out the role by project in the upcoming weeks or months, or here flipping that again, right? Simply saying by role. Or in this case, because I've reassigned these roles already, but I need a consultant for my demo project for 40 hours in July. So again, staffer, assignment, role, bidding, proposed, all here to flex and bend and adapt. Beyond the way that we may look at this from a management sense, but also point out if the concern is simply sharing with staff, the number of hours they've been assigned, letting them know, especially since we've increased the distance in communication over the past 3 months, letting staff know that we have the work for them. Public reports are a great place to share that information. When we share a report publicly, we share the template, but we simply say, when I view that report, I view my data. If Trilby goes to her account and views the same report, she views her data. So personal allocated hours, great way for me to log in and say, all right, I'm confident that as we go into June, I have enough work to do. And then as we enter July, know that that planned work for me has come to a screeching halt. If the goal here is to build on it and say, well, I want my staff to know what they've been assigned, but I also need them to keep track of how they're performing against it. Another great way to do a quick edit of a field and do an input versus allocated. Something like this, I've broken out to just show the current month. Let's show them the projects they're on. I'm assigned to development for 80 hours. I'm assigned to test for 40 hours. Here's what I've logged to date on this, 60, 20. Of the 120 planned hours for me, I have only logged 80 on this. For this group here, haven't gotten started. So the ability to share with staff their planned workload based off of their capacity and let them keep an eye on how they're inputting time against it. It will all tie into what data do you need, how do you need to see it, and who do you need to share it with, given the conversation. And finally, outside of the reports, which again, to build and bend and flex to match, quickest way to see a lot of this data, our utilization dashboard. So perhaps not so much from a project management sense, but more along the lines of true resource management, capacity planning, utilization, billable utilization. This is a central point for all of this data to come together. So everything we've mentioned, from the initial project setup to types, to statuses, to departments, to building out those allocations and assigning hours, it all finds a home on this dashboard. So I'll continue along my month approach, though weekly is an option. I can get out of last month. Now let's go to last month. And at a glance here, start to drill down into my team, right? So for last month, here's each of my departments. Let's take off all of our filters. Got it. My consulting department, my design department, my engineering department. And a lot of that data that we'd seen available in reports, again, it's gonna find a home right here. So of our consultants, David had the capacity to work 126 hours for us. We only assigned him 40, severely underutilized. I've got to do some better prep in this account to make this look like a shining example of what to do. Until then, use this as an example of what not to do. But he's 32% utilized based off of my planned workload. You know, I probably wasn't doing a good enough job of looking ahead to see when I needed to pick up more projects. Of those 40 that he was assigned, he only input 8 of those. Again, that utilization based off the allocation is severely low. The good news is, of the 8 hours he tracked, 8 of those were billable hours, so billable utilization as well. So overhead view, however you need to group and sort and order this to keep an eye on capacity, allocated utilization, input utilization, and billable utilization. From a resourcing point, if I need to see where these 40 hours are allocated, or in this case, Kara, she's over allocated, right? Where? This will drop down and show me every project that Kara is assigned to. She's a team member. Every project she has been allocated hours, or every project where she has input time. 40 hours for a contract, 20 hours for a secondary project. She's over allocated. She has 80 on this demo project here. We can now use these drill down links to get right back to that allocation wizard and say, hey, you know, unfortunately, we can't have 80 hours for Kara in May. She's overbooked. You know, we'll need to drop that down to 60 and see if Cooper, in this case, got it. He does have the availability. Cooper can go ahead and pick up those 20 hours. So save. And then now our utilization dashboard will be here, updated in real time. And we've now taken care of from overutilized to at 95% allocated utilization. Great. Trilby, at this point, would love to pause, take a drink of water, and kick this back over to you. A lot of information to share with everyone on the call today. Again, starting with how we're setting up projects based off of that bidding or proposed status. You know, how are we forecasting out the need or demand for those roles, tying our revenue projections to those, and then taking, you know, multiple approaches to how we need to view this data. Are we a project manager who needs to track performance? Are we a resource manager who needs to look at when we need to hire? And then culminating everything together with that utilization dashboard for all of our utilization tracking and performance by staff, by department, and quick ability to keep an eye on anyone who is over or underutilized and make those adjustments as needed. So hoping to hear some questions from the audience. Always enjoyable when it can be a conversation, but do appreciate everyone being so attentive and allowing me to share with you how BigTime helps firms just like yours solve for these challenges around resource management and capacity planning.
Great, thank you so much, Ty. That was awesome. And we do have some good questions in here, so thank you to everyone who submitted so far. And if you think of something now while we're discussing, please still submit them. There's time to go through them. So first up here, we have a question from James. He asked, does BigTime integrate with NetSuite?
My first question there is going to be, what do you want it to do? It's unfortunately not as simple as yes or no. It would be dependent on what you wanted that exchange to look like, and would say it's not a native integration, but we do offer an open API that would allow for any exchange that you may need. But you know, safely and most confidently answer that, James, would love to know what is it you're hoping to accomplish with NetSuite and BigTime to see how we can get, you know, from where we are to where you want to be.
Perfect. And I should also add too, if you want further clarification or something more specific to your use case, Ty and I can follow up with any of your questions via email as well. Happy to do that. This next question here we have is from Jiru. He asks, can you see time allocated to team members by day or week rather than overall month?
Got it. So week, yes. And assume that question came in before I hopped over to my weekly, or do hope that you caught that as well. Our capacity planning and management is done on a monthly basis or a weekly basis, and you have the option to toggle project to project. Do not get into daily scheduling per se, as it can be dangerous and ultimately just greatly affected or provide an administrative burden with a simple PTO or unexpected day, having to shift daily allocations beyond that. So our approach is monthly or weekly, and the ability to flex or do that on any project.
Perfect.
Oh,
Next up here.
I'm so sorry, I'll throw one more in. Through the reporting, you can shift that time frame, right? So don't feel as though you're limited to saying only June. We could do June 1 through July 14, right? And all of your capacity and allocations are gonna flex and bend based off the date range parameters on your report or on your utilization dashboard.
Perfect. This next question here is from Lisa. She asks, can you filter what utilization reports are accessible to the team?
100%. That will all stem from, you know, a lot of things, admittedly, Lisa, just not covered on the call today, right? When we're adding users to BigTime, we're creating a user group for them. You know, Lisa, you can be the account administrator with total permission and visibility. Trilby can be a department manager with visibility on all that data on her team and her department. I might be a project manager in her department and only have limited visibility on time data on my projects. It'll start with your user rights and login, and then as we share reports, we're able to control those permissions so that, I'll make this clear, and I haven't had too much coffee, so I shouldn't be too amped, but let's just say we wanna look at utilization, and we create a report. So we share that template. When Trilby views it for her department, she only shows her department members. When I view it for my department, I only view my department members. My team members maybe don't even see that report to begin with. So it's all about who needs to see the data and how do they need to see it, and that ability to create and customize how we're sharing that.
Yeah, lots of customization options in BigTime, which is always nice. This question here from Lauren, she said, thanks for the presentation. Glad you enjoyed it, Lauren.
Thank you.
Is there a way to easily compare how many hours have been allocated to a staff member while adjusting their allocations in the allocation wizard? To clarify, is there a way to compare overall project allocations for a staffer across all their projects while updating their allocations for a single project?
Oh, we're in deep, Lauren. We're in deep there. I thought I could get away with a quick edit. That, again, to give you a true answer, I think a conversation would be super helpful. My initial reaction there is that it would be a combination, but it's going to depend on where we're doing it, right? Even at that project level, I can see where I'm allocated across all my other projects before I make a shift. So that could be one way. It could be a matter of having, you know, just in a second tab, your free time or available or scheduled report open before you hit update on one or the other. I don't want to give you the wrong information. My initial response is that, yes, it is possible to have that visibility, but hoping that you drop us a quick message after this, we can connect one-on-one or with a member of my team, truly find out the use case, know how you're handling this now, again, to see if that would shape the solution there. But initially, my response is yes. You know, we are built to give that flexibility to make sure that we have all that visibility that we need whenever we're doing so. But drop me a message. Let's chat some more one-on-one. Again, seeing how you manage that now might give me a better framework to give a more detailed descriptive answer for you.
We have another question from Drew. He asks, I'm wondering if you could talk about QuickBooks integration, and does it integrate with QuickBooks Online? Just a brief overview on that.
Yeah, absolutely. You see QuickBooks up at the top of my screen there. I'm connected to QuickBooks. I'm connected to a desktop file. I use desktop. We come recommended from Intuit themselves as the #1 integrated solution for professional services firms in the PSA space. We've been working with Intuit since 2002, 2003. Long, great standing relationship with them. Does not matter if you are desktop or online. For anyone else on the call, the info exchange is the same as far as data points go. Again, we have the best of breed integration with QuickBooks. It would, again, I'm so sorry, Trilby, everyone's gonna think I'm giving non-answers, but it's gonna depend on what you need to do, right? Projects are linked, staffers are linked, time is linked, invoices are linked, AR is linked. The goal there is to keep folks out of QuickBooks that don't need to be there. Let them get their time in, let them manage projects and budgets. You know, BigTime fills that space and then allows QuickBooks to be the accounting solution. That being said, a lot of great ways to share what everyone, if you joined me before, you've heard me say it and you'll hear me continue to say it, is the right financial information with the right project people. You know, I don't need my project manager to be in QuickBooks looking at anything, but maybe I need them to know if there are outstanding invoices for this. So that's the type of relationship we can have. But you know, whether you are entering vendor bills against a project for project cost accounting and then pushing to QuickBooks to create the payable, whether you're posting timesheets for payroll, whether you're posting invoices for AR management, it is a very in-depth relationship with either version of QuickBooks. And again, something we're happy to explore. Once better understanding what it is you want to accomplish will help you get there.
Great, thank you, Ty. And I think that's a good segue into our next step slides, if you don't mind bringing those back, Ty. As he mentioned on a lot of the questions, one of the great things about BigTime is it really can be custom to your firm and the way you work. So if you're interested in learning more about that and seeing specifically how it worked for your firm, as well as all of our other features beyond resource management, time tracking, expense tracking, invoicing, all of it, we are offering some one-on-one consultations or a free trial of BigTime if you're ready to just get your hands on it and explore it for yourself a little further. So if you're interested in either of those options, we will have a survey prompted right after the webinar ends. And if you just hit yes for wanting to be contacted, we'll be in touch with you and get those set up for you. In addition to that, there's a couple questions we didn't get to and some that were more specific, as we mentioned. So I will make sure a member of our team follows up with you on those so you can get a clear answer for yourself. As I said in the beginning too, this was recorded, so look in your inbox tomorrow morning for a link to the recording of this webinar. And with that, we hope you guys join us next time too. I think next month we have an exciting release with payment processing coming out. So our next product tour will probably all focused on invoicing, but we hope to see you guys before then too. So thank you again for joining. And Ty, any other final words before we go?
No, that is it. Thank you to you again for putting this together and for encouraging folks to reach out for that consultation. The first step in solving these problems, we say this on our team every day, is understand how you're doing it now and what you're trying to accomplish. That allows us to take our product knowledge, apply it to the situation, and get you to that end result. So reach out. My LinkedIn profile is up here. Happy to say hello, send you some BigTime swag. If you are ready for that consultation or when you are ready, please let us know. We'll connect you with either myself or a member of our team to get you helped out. And look forward to continuing this process and sharing BigTime with you and how we help firms across all of your industries solve for the challenges at hand. So thank you very much and look forward to next time.
Great, thanks again. Have a good rest of your day, everyone.